Forget everything you've been told about the observer effect. For years, you've heard that consciousness collapses the wave function, that by focusing your attention, you can bend reality. Millions of people visualize, affirm, and try to manifest with sheer observation. And yet, nothing truly changes. Because here's the truth they never told you. The observer effect is only the surface. It is not the key. The real transformation happens in the hidden space before observation, through embodiment. Right now, as you hear these words, you can feel it. That restless pull inside of you, that whisper that you were meant for more. You've noticed it before, the strange flow of time around you, the sudden knowing that arrives without logic, the feeling that you're standing at the edge of something bigger than anything you've been taught. This isn't imagination. This isn't coincidence. This is your nervous system detecting the shift that has already begun. And here's the shocking part. You don't change your life by watching reality. You change it by becoming the frequency of the reality you desire. Embodiment is the real quantum shift. When you embody, you stop chasing. You stop forcing. Reality doesn't need to be observed from the outside. It begins to express itself through you. That's why you're here. Out of millions who scroll past, you didn't land here by accident. You were selected by resonance, pulled by the field itself. Because your next evolution isn't about learning more concepts. It's about remembering what you already are. This is your activation. This is the moment where you stop observing and start embodying. Part 2. The Observer Effect Trap. Everyone talks about the observer effect as if it's the final secret. The idea sounds powerful. Your consciousness collapses possibilities into one outcome, and reality appears. For decades, this has been repeated in books, seminars, and videos until it became accepted as the foundation of manifestation. People are told, just visualize harder, just focus longer, just keep your attention fixed on what you want, and eventually it will materialize. But let's be honest, you've tried that, haven't you? You've visualized the dream house, repeated the affirmations, meditated on the image of your future. And while maybe some small things shifted, the deeper changes you longed for never came. That's because the observer effect, by itself, is incomplete. It explains how observation interacts with reality, but not why your reality often refuses to bend. Here's the trap. When you operate only from the observer effect, you're still standing on the outside of reality. You are here, reality is there, and you're trying to collapse the distance with mental force. It creates a subtle separation, an invisible wall, between you and the life you want. The more you try, the more you reinforce the belief that what you want is separate from you. That separation keeps you trapped. Think of it like trying to tune into a radio station. If your receiver isn't calibrated, it doesn't matter how intently you listen, you'll only hear static. Millions are stuck listening to static, believing that more concentration will bring clarity. But the real issue isn't attention, it's calibration. That's why so many people feel frustrated. They think manifestation doesn't work, or worse, that something is wrong with them. But nothing is wrong with you. What's broken is the teaching. Because the observer effect is only a shadow of a deeper process happening underneath. Something that doesn't just collapse possibilities, but chooses which framework of reality you exist in before the collapse even begins. And here's the paradox. The harder you push with observation, the more resistance you create. You may have felt it, the sense of trying everything, only to circle back into the same loops. Effort breeds tension, and tension blocks the flow of coherence. It's like pressing your face against the glass, desperate to get inside, never realizing the door has been behind you the whole time. The observer effect trap is seductive because it feels logical. If I think it, if I focus on it, it should appear. But quantum reality doesn't operate on mental force. It responds to frequency, and your frequency isn't determined by the thoughts in your mind. It's shaped by the state you embody with your entire being. This is why some people manifest with ease while others struggle. It's not about who focuses harder. It's about who has shifted their identity to become the reality they desire. They don't stand outside looking in. They're already inside the experience, long before the evidence appears. So, if you've been trying to use the observer effect to force reality into compliance, it's not your fault. You were taught to use the shadow, not the source. But today, you're going to see what's really happening beneath the surface. You'll see why embodiment, not observation, is the true quantum shift. Once you grasp this, you'll stop wasting energy trying to get reality to change, and you'll begin living as the version of yourself that reality has no choice but to mirror. Because reality isn't waiting for your observation, it's waiting for your embodiment. And once you embody, the static disappears, the wall dissolves, and the frequency of your desired life becomes the only station you can hear. Part 3. The missing piece. Embodiment. For centuries, spiritual teachers, scientists, and seekers have asked the same question. What is the true mechanism that shapes reality? The observer effect gave us one piece of the puzzle, but the deeper key has been hiding in plain sight. It isn't about watching reality. It's about being the frequency of the reality you wish to live. This is what I call embodiment. And once you understand this, everything changes. Think about it. When you dream at night, you don't sit back and observe the dream unfold. You don't tell yourself, I will watch this dream until it becomes real. You are inside the dream, fully immersed. The dream feels real because you embody it completely. There is no gap between dreamer and dream. Your consciousness is the experience. Now imagine applying that same principle to waking life. Instead of standing outside your desires, trying to observe them into being, you dissolve the separation. You begin to live as if the version of you who already has that reality is here now. You take on their posture, their energy, their emotional baseline. You embody the frequency of that timeline, and by doing so, you step into it. Embodiment is not pretending. It is not about faking confidence or forcing positivity. Embodiment is alignment at the deepest level, when your thoughts, emotions, body, and energy field all broadcast the same signal. That signal is what the quantum field responds to. Not your words, not your willpower, but your coherence. Let's use a metaphor. Picture a tuning fork. Strike one tuned to 440 Hz, and any nearby instrument resonating with that frequency will begin to vibrate automatically. The instrument doesn't need to be convinced. It doesn't need to be observed. It simply resonates, because the frequency is embodied. This is how embodiment works. You become the tuning fork, vibrating at the frequency of your chosen reality. And everything in resonance aligns with you. Now compare this to the trap of the observer effect. When you visualize, affirm, or focus without embodiment, it's like striking a tuning fork, but refusing to let it ring. You hold the idea in your mind, but your body and energy are still tuned to the old frequency. No wonder nothing changes. The signal is inconsistent. The field receives mixed messages. Thought says yes, energy says no. And the field always responds to the strongest frequency, not the loudest thought. This is why some people seem to manifest effortlessly. They're not grinding through affirmations all day. They're living from a state of embodied certainty. Their nervous system has accepted the reality as true, and because of that, the quantum field reorganizes around their signal. It looks like luck. It looks like magic. But it's simply resonance in action. So how do you embody? The shift begins with remembering that you are not separate from the reality you want. You're not chasing it. You're not waiting for it. You're not begging the universe to deliver it. You are it. You allow yourself to breathe, move, and feel as if you've already stepped into that timeline. You walk differently. You speak differently. You carry yourself with the weightlessness of someone who knows it's done. And here's the most liberating part. Embodiment doesn't require effort. It requires surrender. Instead of straining to control outcomes, you relax into coherence. You stop fighting your old patterns, and you begin aligning with your true frequency. The moment you stop trying to do, and you allow yourself to be, coherence emerges naturally. You may have already tasted this state in brief flashes. Remember the times when everything just clicked? When opportunities arrived without planning? When people appeared at the perfect moment? When time seemed to bend in your favor? That was embodiment. That was you slipping into quantum coherence for a moment, long enough for reality to rearrange itself around you. The goal now is to stabilize it, to live there consistently instead of by accident. But let me warn you, once you glimpse embodiment, you cannot go back. The illusion of separation begins to dissolve, and you realize that trying to observe reality into being was like pressing your face against glass while the door was wide open. You see the wasted effort, the years of forcing, and you understand why nothing felt sustainable. Because you were always meant to step through the door, not stare at it. Embodiment also explains why your struggles were never meaningless. Every challenge, every heartbreak, every breakdown was training your nervous system to hold higher frequencies. You were being stripped of false identities so that the real you, the embodied self, could emerge. Those difficulties weren't punishments. They were initiations. They prepared you to embody at a level most people aren't ready for. And here is where things get exciting. Once you live from embodiment, reality begins to respond instantly. The delay between desire and manifestation collapses. Why? Because there's no longer a gap to bridge. There's no longer a you here and what you want there. There's only one coherent frequency expressing itself as your life. But embodiment isn't just about personal transformation. This is the part almost nobody talks about. When you embody a higher frequency, you become a transmitter in the collective field. Your coherence doesn't just shift your life, it creates ripples that affect everyone around you. That's why some people feel magnetically drawn to you, while others may feel unsettled. They're responding to the frequency you carry. Your embodiment awakens theirs. So if you've been frustrated, if you've been looping through the same lessons, the same techniques, the same promises that never delivered, understand this. You weren't failing. You were being prepared for the missing piece. The observer effect gave you the language. Embodiment gives you the power. And here's the bridge into the next revelation. Once you start embodying, you begin noticing signals all around you. Time bends. Knowledge downloads. Synchronicities multiply. Your dreams grow vivid. These are not random. They are confirmations that your field is recalibrating. that your coherence is expanding. Which brings us to the next step. The signs that embodiment is already active in your life, because chances are you've been experiencing them for years without realizing what they meant. In the next part, I'll show you how to recognize these signals, not as coincidences, but as evidence that you are already living the quantum shift. Part 4. Signs you're already experiencing this shift. How do you truly know that embodiment is already alive within you? The truth is, many of you have been walking through this quantum shift for years without realizing it. The signals have been appearing again and again, whispering at the edges of your awareness. And tonight, we are going to name them. Because once you recognize these signs, you will understand that nothing about your path has been random. Your system has been recalibrating all along. Perhaps the first sign you've noticed is the way time bends around you. Moments expand and contract in ways that make no logical sense. 5 minutes can feel like hours, while entire afternoons vanish in what feels like a blink. This isn't bad time management. This isn't distraction. It is your consciousness stepping outside of linear time and sampling multiple dimensions at once. That is why déjà vu can strike you with such intensity. It isn't simply a glitch of the brain. It's a moment where your awareness brushes against a parallel timeline you've already touched before. These distortions are proof that you're no longer confined to the rigid clock of Newtonian time. You're beginning to live inside non-linear time, where the past, present, and future exist as one field of possibility. And maybe you've noticed this in your dreams. Dreams that feel more real than waking life. Dreams that leave you with memories that don't belong to this timeline. You wake with the undeniable sense that you've lived that exact combination of people, places, and feelings before. That's because dreams are one of the safest gateways for your nervous system to process quantum information. While the rational mind is offline, your embodied self can receive pure downloads, guidance, clarity, even previews of what's already unfolding. That moment when you wake with an answer you didn't have the night before, that is not your imagination. That is quantum embodiment whispering through the dream space. Then there are the synchronicities, numbers that repeat wherever you look, people who arrive in your life at the exact instant you need them, conversations that line up so perfectly it feels as if they were scripted. These are not coincidences. They are the quantum field responding to your coherent signal. When you embody, reality reshuffles itself around your vibration. Opportunities line up without effort. Doors open before you even knock. What looks like luck from the outside is simply resonance in action. And the more you acknowledge these synchronicities as signs, the more they multiply, until your life feels like a constant stream of alignment. You may have also felt the power of intuition striking without warning. Those moments when you simply knew something, without evidence, without reasoning, and it proved true. Or those flashes when entire packages of understanding dropped into your awareness instantly, as if downloaded from a higher intelligence. This is what happens when embodiment bypasses the filters of the rational mind. Instead of asking, analyzing, or waiting, you simply receive. Inspiration, insight, revelation, they are all the same mechanism. Your embodied state tapping directly into the source code of reality. And then there's the way your sensitivity to energy has sharpened. You walk into a room and instantly feel whether it uplifts you or drains you. Certain people leave you exhausted, while others fill you with vitality for hours. This is not oversensitivity. This is frequency awareness. Your energy field has become a precise instrument, detecting resonance and dissonance at lightning speed. It is also why some people feel magnetically drawn to you, while others grow uncomfortable in your presence. You are no longer blending into the background. You've become a broadcasting tower of coherence, and the field around you cannot help but respond. Even technology reacts. Lights flicker, devices glitch, because your electromagnetic presence is stronger than it has ever been. Now pause for a moment and notice. How many of these signs have already been part of your life? If even one resonates, understand this clearly. You are not broken, you are not imagining things, and you are not too sensitive. These are confirmations that the quantum shift is active within you. Your nervous system is recalibrating. Your field is expanding. You are already walking the path of embodiment, whether or not you realized it until now. And here's the key. The more you validate these signs, the more stable they become. When you dismiss them as coincidence, they fade back into the background. But when you recognize them as feedback from the field, they grow stronger, louder, impossible to ignore. Recognition is the fuel of embodiment. Which brings us to the question burning inside you. If I've already been experiencing these signals, what happens next? How do I deepen embodiment so it becomes my natural state rather than fleeting moments? That is exactly where we're going. Because these signs are not the destination, they are the doorway. They are the universe's way of confirming that you are ready for coherence, ready to embody the frequency itself. In the next part, you will see why your struggles, your breakdowns, your darkest nights were never punishments. They were preparation. Every challenge was training your system to hold higher levels of consciousness. And once you understand this, you will never look at your past the same way again. Part 5. Why struggles were preparation. Every difficulty you've faced, every heartbreak, every collapse you thought might destroy you, none of it was random. Those moments weren't punishment, and they weren't proof that you were failing. They were training grounds. They were recalibrations. They were the very forge in which your nervous system was being prepared to hold the frequency of your next evolution. Think of the metamorphosis of a caterpillar. Inside the cocoon, the caterpillar doesn't simply sprout wings. Its entire structure dissolves into a soup of potential. What looks like destruction from the outside is actually the very process that makes transformation possible. And if you could see yourself through that same lens, you'd realize that your hardest seasons were never about breaking you down. They were about reorganizing you at the most fundamental level. That pressure you felt, the kind that made it seem like life was closing in from all sides, that wasn't external punishment. It was the signal of your own higher consciousness pressing against the walls of your old identity. Every time you felt too much, every time you felt like you didn't fit, every time you felt out of place in the world, that was your quantum nature pushing at the boundaries of limitation, demanding space to emerge. This is why jobs ended, why relationships dissolved, why plans collapsed right when you thought they were secure. Not because you were unlucky, not because the universe was cruel, because your soul was pulling you away from frequencies that could no longer contain you. The old frameworks had to fall apart to create room for a higher reality to lock in. When you look back, you can probably trace this pattern. The relationships that ended freed you from repeating cycles. The jobs that slipped away forced you to expand into paths you would never have chosen on your own. The nights you thought you couldn't survive pushed you into surrender, into a level of presence that revealed a strength you didn't know you had. It's easy in the middle of struggle to believe you're being punished. But when you see through the eyes of embodiment, you realize you were being initiated. Pressure was never proof of failure. Pressure was proof that your system was upgrading. Just as a muscle grows stronger through resistance, your consciousness was being expanded through friction. And here's the paradox. If your life had stayed comfortable, you would have stayed small. Comfort never births transformation. The very discomfort you tried to escape was the evidence that something ancient was waking up inside of you. Every loss carved out space. Every disappointment stripped away illusions. Every breakdown was clearing out frequencies that could not come with you into the next dimension of reality. You've probably noticed that after every storm, you didn't just return to who you were before. You emerged different, clearer, lighter, more aware. That's because every collapse was a cocoon moment. The dissolution of what you thought you were, so that the truth of who you are could finally emerge. And maybe you've asked yourself, why me? Why does it feel like I've had to carry so much intensity when others seem to drift through life untouched? The answer is simple. You were chosen to hold more. You were chosen to bridge realities. You were chosen to become an anchor of coherence in a world still trapped in separation. And for that, your system had to be strong enough. So no, your struggles were not wasted years. They were sacred preparation. They rewired your nervous system to withstand the voltage of higher consciousness. They burned away identities that were too small for your soul. They forced you into surrender, which is the only doorway to true embodiment. And the evidence is here. You're still standing. You didn't just survive those seasons. You are speaking from them with new eyes. You've carried scars, yes, but those scars are proof of initiation. They are reminders that you walked through fire and emerged forged, not broken. This is why, from this moment forward, you will never again see your pain as meaningless. You'll understand it as the most important teacher you ever had. Without those nights of despair, you wouldn't have cracked open to the light. Without those losses, you wouldn't have made space for coherence. Without the breaking, you wouldn't have become someone who could hold the frequency you now carry. And here is the most important truth. The preparation phase is complete. You are not still dissolving. You are emerging. The old operating system has already shut down. The new one is online. What you felt as pressure is now transforming into clarity. What looked like endings are revealing themselves as beginnings. The cocoon has already split open, and the wings are here. From this day on, you will no longer interpret challenges the same way. Because you know they are not designed to defeat you. They are designed to activate you. And when the next wave of pressure comes, and it will, you won't collapse into fear. You'll recognize it as another layer of calibration, a signal that you are about to expand again. This shift in perspective changes everything. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" you will begin asking, "What is this preparing me for?" That single reframe turns pain into power, struggle into initiation, endings into doorways. And now that you understand the true purpose of your struggles, you are ready for the next revelation. Embodiment isn't just about surviving challenges. It's about stabilizing coherence in the middle of them. Because the real test is not whether you can feel expanded in meditation or in moments of ease. The real test is whether you can embody coherence while life around you is chaotic, uncertain, or falling apart. In the next part, you will learn exactly how to do that. You will see how to anchor embodiment so deeply that nothing outside you can shake it. Not circumstances, not relationships, not fear. And when you can live from that stability, you stop being someone who occasionally touches higher states. You become someone who walks in them, breathes in them, and transmits them naturally every moment of your life. Part 6. Embodiment in daily life. You now understand that embodiment is the hidden quantum shift, and that every struggle has been preparing you for it. But knowing is not enough. The real transformation happens when embodiment moves out of theory and into daily life, when it becomes the way you breathe, the way you walk, the way you move through every moment. Because the truth is, embodiment isn't something you visit once in meditation. It's a state you stabilize until reality has no choice but to mirror it back to you. So how do you live it? How do you take this profound, almost mystical concept and anchor it in the middle of an ordinary day filled with emails, bills, relationships, and noise? The answer is simpler than you think. Embodiment begins with the smallest of shifts, micro choices that signal to the field, I am already living the frequency of my desired reality. The first practice is your breath. Every morning, before the world pulls you into distraction, take a few minutes to breathe with intention. Slow your inhale, let your chest expand, and then exhale even more slowly, releasing tension from your body. As you breathe, call to mind not what you want, but who you already are in the reality you're choosing. See yourself as that version, calm, centered, radiant, and allow your nervous system to sync with that image. This isn't visualization for the future. It is embodiment in the present. Your body begins to feel what your mind already knows, and coherence emerges naturally. The second practice is posture. Throughout the day, notice how your body carries itself. Are your shoulders slumped, your breath shallow, your face tight with strain? Or are you standing as the embodied version of you would? Shoulders relaxed, heart open, spine tall. Posture is language. It speaks to the field more loudly than words ever could. Every time you correct your posture into alignment, you're not just standing up straighter, you're broadcasting, I am already the frequency I choose to live. The third practice is what I call the embodied affirmation. Most affirmations fail because they remain trapped in the mind. You repeat them while your body and emotions tell a different story. But when you combine words with state, everything shifts. Instead of saying, I am abundant while feeling scarcity, pause. Step into the feeling of having enough. Breathe as though it's true. Relax your shoulders as though the weight has lifted. Then, from that embodied state, speak the words. The field doesn't respond to the sentence. It responds to the signal of coherence. Another simple but powerful practice is to log your synchronicities. Each evening, write down at least 3 alignments you noticed that day, no matter how small. Maybe you thought of someone and they texted. Maybe the exact resource you needed appeared by chance. Maybe you caught repeating numbers on a clock. These aren't trivial. They are feedback from the field, proof that embodiment is working. When you record them, you train your awareness to notice the resonance. And the more you notice, the stronger the signal becomes. And then there's the practice of surrender. This may be the hardest, because we are conditioned to control. But embodiment thrives in release, not tension. Each night before sleep, name one thing you're letting go of. Say quietly, I release the need to control this. Breathe it out. Let your body soften. In that moment, you are teaching your system to relax into coherence rather than forcing outcomes. Over time, this surrender becomes a natural rhythm, and life begins to organize itself around you. Notice how these practices are not complex rituals. They don't require hours of discipline or special tools. They are small, consistent acts that align your system with the frequency of your chosen reality. And as you repeat them, you will feel the shift. Not in grand fireworks, but in subtle ways. Your energy steadies, your mind quiets, synchronicities increase, relationships recalibrate, opportunities flow. The beauty of embodiment is that it doesn't wait for perfect conditions. You can practice coherence in the middle of chaos. You can breathe coherence in traffic. You can hold posture during conflict. You can choose surrender in the face of uncertainty. These are the real tests, and also the real breakthroughs. Because when you embody coherence even while the world shakes, you prove to yourself and to the field that nothing external can pull you out of alignment. That's when embodiment becomes unshakable. And here's what happens when you live this way. You stop chasing. You stop asking when your reality will change. You stop doubting whether the shift is working. Because you are no longer trying to get there. You are already there. You carry yourself as someone who knows it's done. And reality, with no choice, catches up. So tomorrow morning, before you reach for your phone, try it. Breathe coherence for 3 minutes. Stand in the posture of your highest self. Speak your affirmation only from embodied feeling. Notice your first synchronicity of the day. Release one thing before you sleep. Do this not as a rigid routine, but as a living rhythm, because embodiment isn't about technique. It's about remembering again and again who you already are. And as you anchor this state, something even greater begins to unfold. You realize embodiment is not only personal, it is collective. Your coherence radiates outward, shaping environments, uplifting others, reorganizing the field itself. Which is why, in the next part, we will explore how your embodiment connects to the larger awakening happening across the planet. You'll see that your transformation was never just about you. It was about becoming a bridge, a transmitter, part of a vast network of human consciousness that is rising together. Part 7. Collective Awakening and Belonging. Up until now, we've been speaking about your journey, your struggles, your embodiment, your transformation. But here's the truth you need to hear. This shift was never only about you. What you're experiencing inside is part of something far greater, something moving across the planet like an invisible tide. You are not an isolated spark. You are a vital cell in the awakening body of humanity. Every time you choose embodiment, every time you stabilize coherence, you're not only reorganizing your own life, you're sending ripples into the collective field that touch everyone around you. That's why people sense something different in your presence without you saying a word. They can't always explain it, but they feel it. The way conversations shift around you, the way environments lighten when you walk in, the way synchronicities seem to orbit your path. You are broadcasting coherence into the human field, and others subconsciously adjust to your signal. Think of it like this. Consciousness is a web, and every human being is a strand. When you embody a higher frequency, that strand vibrates differently. And because the web is interconnected, those vibrations travel. They awaken resonance in others who might not even know why they suddenly feel a new possibility stirring inside them. Your embodiment gives permission for theirs. This is why your preparation was so intense. It wasn't just to expand your personal reality. It was to anchor you as a transmitter, a node of stability in a world where old systems are crumbling. While many are still trapped in loops of fear, scarcity, and separation, You are carrying the frequency of coherence. You are proof that another way of being is possible, and you are not alone in this. Right now, across every continent, millions of people are waking up to the same realization. Some are just beginning to feel the strange distortions of time. Others are deep in the cocoon, dissolving old identities. And many, like you, are stepping into embodiment, recognizing that the observer effect was only the surface and that the real key is becoming the frequency itself. When you connect to this truth, a new sense of belonging emerges. Suddenly, your differences make sense. The times you felt like an outsider, like no one understood you, like you were carrying something too heavy for anyone else to relate to, those were not accidents. They were the signs that you were part of the first wave. You incarnated at this time, in this age, to help anchor the next dimension of human consciousness. Every time you choose to embody coherence rather than fall back into old patterns, you make it easier for others to do the same. You are literally clearing pathways in the morphic field, carving channels of possibility that more and more people can follow. This is why the universe placed you here now, not to escape into isolation, but to stand as living proof that awakening is real and that it can be lived in daily life. And here's the most beautiful part. You don't have to preach it. You don't have to convince anyone with arguments or force them to believe. Your frequency speaks louder than any words. When people feel your presence, they sense stability. They sense authenticity. They sense freedom. And without even trying, you become a mirror that shows them what is possible within themselves. This is the highest form of service. Not trying to fix others, but embodying your truth so completely that others remember theirs. Not through debate, not through persuasion, but through resonance. When you live coherence, you radiate an invitation. This is who you can be too. So if you've ever doubted your place in this world, if you've ever wondered why you felt different, this is your answer. You were never meant to fit into the old patterns. You were meant to carry the blueprint of the new. Your very existence is a transmission. Your presence is part of a planetary upgrade. And right now, as you listen to these words, millions of others are listening to the same inner call. You might not see them, you might not know their names, but they are out there, breathing coherence, embodying frequency, anchoring timelines. Together, you form an invisible network, a living grid of awakened consciousness surrounding the earth. This is what belonging truly means. Feel into that for a moment. You are not alone. You never were. Every struggle you endured prepared you to stand in this network. Every breakthrough you achieved adds strength to the grid. And every choice you make from embodiment radiates outward, lifting not only your life, but the collective itself. This is why the universe guided you here, to this very moment. Not simply to learn about embodiment, but to recognize that your embodiment is part of something vast, something unstoppable, a wave of awakening sweeping across humanity, and you are one of its anchors. In the next part, we will seal this truth even deeper. Because belonging is powerful, but it needs to be embodied through action. I'll show you how to make a conscious declaration that not only stabilizes your shift, but locks you into this global wave of transformation. A declaration so simple it can be written in one word, yet so potent it acts like an energetic contract between you, the universe, and the awakening network surrounding you. This is the moment. No more circling ideas, no more waiting for the right time. The shift is already alive in you, and the only thing left is to anchor it. So here's your invitation. Declare it. One word, embodied. Write it, feel it. Let it move through your chest like a quiet certainty. This is not for show. This is your signal to the field, your way of saying, I am done observing. I am living as the frequency itself. As soon as you do, notice the shift in your body. The breath deepens, the mind softens, and a new resonance begins to hum underneath your skin. That's not imagination. That's the activation. And if you are ready to keep walking this path, subscribe now. Treat it as an agreement, not a button. Every video here is a continuation, a breadcrumb guiding you deeper into the current of embodiment. When the next one appears, don't hesitate. Follow it. It is not random. It is the field reflecting your choice back to you. Your declaration is the door. Your embodiment is the step. The moment you claim it, reality begins to reorganize. So don't delay. Write the word. Anchor the frequency. Step forward. Welcome to embodiment. Welcome to the shift.